Here's the truth. No one is going to remember us for what we ate, but how we eat just might help us leave a lasting legacy that's worth remembering. And that's what's on the menu for today. What do you say that we just dig into the conversation? Let's go. Hey everyone, my name is Jason, aka Pastor J, and welcome to my home away from home. This is my office here at New Hope Lutheran Church in the small town of Comfrey, Minnesota. Yasher, don't you know? Anyway, little humor aside, I've had one word on my mind these last number of days, and I just can't seem to escape it. It's the word legacy. I'll tell you why, and then I'm going to tell you how that word ties in with our carnivore diet near the middle to the end of the video. But to get there, I got to lay the groundwork. I got to tell you a story or two. That's just kind of me. So don't go anywhere. You got to stick around because you're going to want to hear the end of this video and how this impacts you. Okay? So if you've been following my channel for any length of time, you know that not only am I the pastor of New Hope Lutheran Church, that I've lost 6 congregants since January. I've had 9 funerals now since I've been here since last spring, which is quite a bit. But out of those 9 funerals in totality, and 6 of them this year, 5 of them have come in like the last 7-8 weeks, y'all. All during the season of Lent and even right up into Holy Week. I have one more funeral. It just happens to be this Saturday. It's been a lot. It's been exhausting. But more than that, it's been very humbling. Especially as I've had to go out to the cemeteries. Yeah, you heard that right. That's plural. To lay my friends to rest. My congregation, New Hope Lutheran Church, is built upon the rubble of 2 smaller congregations that pre-existed New Hope that were both destroyed in a tornado of 1998. An F4 plus tornado ripped through our town and destroyed a majority of it and kept going east and destroyed many other towns, St. Peter being one of them, the original capital of Minnesota, by the way. A little bit of trivia that you really didn't need to know in any event. A congregation came out of the rubble of 2 congregations that were destroyed, and one of them was Faith Evangelical Swedish Lutheran Church, and the other one was Salem Evangelical Lutheran Church. That was a German church. And while they were in their infancies and teenage years and even into their maturing years, they probably didn't get together and do a lot because one was Swedish and the other one was German. Yeah, don't you know? It's the way things used to be. They just didn't associate. At one time, Faith Evangelical Lutheran Church used to be a couple miles out of town. And then at some point in time, probably in the 20s or 30s of the 20th century, that is, the churches moved the building structure here into town for both Salem and Faith. Prior to, they sat on the prairie before the town of Comfrey ever even existed, where today both cemeteries sit. Anyway, I was out burying a member at Faith. And after the burial service took place, I kind of stepped away for a little bit to let the family say their last goodbyes. And so I just kind of started to work my way back to the car. And I walked past this headstone, and the last name was Thor. That's right, Thor, as in the Norse god Thor, which isn't sometimes uncommon in Scandinavian culture to have a last name that resembled the old Norse gods. In any event, it was a very old headstone, and it's got patina on it, and some of the writing is starting to wear away, and none of the writing is in English. It's all in Swedish, so I can't understand most of it. I can read the last name and the first name, and I can definitely read the dates. And the dates on either side of the dash blew me away. This person had been born in the mid-1800s and passed away in the early days of the 20th century. And I thought for certain he's had to have been one of the oldest. And boy, was I wrong. So the other day I was tasked, this ties in with it, of writing a newsletter for my congregation's monthly newsletter. I had to write the article. And this word legacy, I just couldn't get it out of my mind. It's really without thinking about it, just kind of like instinctually, whatever. I just went out to my car, I turned it on, and I drove north out of town to Faith Evangelical New Hope Lutheran Church Cemetery to cautiously and patiently, humbly walk through the cemetery, being very mindful of where I was and that there were people beneath my feet. People that once lived lives and impacted probably hundreds of people. I had to be very respectful because these were founders of our church that are out there laid to rest. And I went out to Mr. Thor's headstone to take note of the date. And I thought for sure he's got to be the oldest. But as I started to walk around, I found that no, he wasn't. To that headstone's left, I guess you can say, about 10 feet, there was this husband and wife who were buried side by side. His name was Gustav, and her name was Margareta. The last name was Olin, which isn't very Scandinavian, but or Odin, excuse me, which again isn't very Scandinavian. It sounds very Irish, but it was probably changed from something like Odin. I don't know. That's besides the point. The dates on the either side of the dash blew me away. Gustav Odin was born in 1813, probably in Sweden. And his wife Margareta was born just a few years later. She died before him. She died in 1888. Yeah, that's right, 1888. And he passed away in 1898. Y'all think about that date. 1898. That was 127 years ago. And as I looked down at their headstones, I started to ask myself, who were Gustav and Margareta? What did they do? What did they see? I imagined as I thought about them how they were probably among the earliest pioneers and settlers that came to southern Minnesota here. In my mind, I was thinking that they came across when this land was still untilled prairie land, that it had native grasses and native flowers, native weeds and trees that aren't even here anymore. And among the prairie, atop the prairie, who lived atop the prairie were native peoples, Chippewa and Sioux, who aren't even here anymore, whose ancestors are buried somewhere here beneath our feet. And I really wondered, who were Gustav and Margareta? What kind of life did they live? What did they see? Did they leave a legacy? And as I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, they did. A really big one. Because of where they are buried, that tells me that they were founding members of what became Faith Evangelical Swedish Lutheran Church here in the small town of Comfrey, Minnesota. Before Comfrey was even incorporated, Faith Evangelical Lutheran Church, which sat upon the prairie, became a congregation. And Gustav and Margareta had to have been founding members of what became that assembly of that congregation. Now, if you've been a part of a church or you've even heard this rhyme before, you've probably heard this. Here is a church and here is its steeple. If you open the doors, you see all the people, right? We'd like to think of a church as a building, but in reality, the church isn't the building. It's not the Kirche. That's the German word for church. It's not the basilica. It's not the cathedral. Those things are just edifices. Mind you, they might be very beautifully and old and architecturally amazing, right? But the building is not the church. It's the people that are the church. The people are the ecclesia, the assembly, the congregation, right? And Gustav and Margareta had to have been founding members, at least a portion of them, with that assembly of people in order to be buried where they are. And I thought, because of Gustav and Margareta, I am now privileged to be the pastor of New Hope Lutheran Church, again, which came out of the rubble of two congregations out of Faith and out of Salem that after disaster hit, they came together because God gave them a brand new hope and they formed this new congregation. But prior to then, they were two separate congregations that were divided by ethnicity and by language until God brought them together. But Margareta and Gustav helped lay that foundation. They left a legacy for other people. Now you're wondering, what in the world does this have to do with me? What does this have to do with the carnivore diet? I'm going to get to this right now. So don't go anywhere because this is where we get to the good stuff. I just have to lay that foundation, if you will. Excuse me as I take a sip of my water. Again, nobody is going to remember you for what you ate, right? No one remembers what Margareta and Gustav ate. When I look at their headstones, all I see is their name, their date of birth, and their date of passing, and the dash in between. That dash in between for me and for you includes what we ate. But no one is going to remember you for being a carnivore or a ketovore or being a vegetarian or eating the standard American diet. No one is going to remember those things. And they're never going to talk about those things. Right? We talk about being carnivore and the importance of being on the carnivore diet and doing this and that and every other thing. You know, in 100 years from now, nobody's going to even know that I even had a YouTube channel, whether I even existed or not. Right? No one's going to care. But they are going to care about the legacy that I left, whether they remember my name or not. And the same is true for you. And this is how it ties in. Right? Again, no one's going to remember what we ate. No one's going to remember that Arnold Schwarzenegger is a vegetarian, even though he was built like a tank. Now, they're going to remember him from being a governor. They're going to remember him for being an actor. But most importantly, what's going to be remembered is how his family remembered him by the way he was loved, by the way he loved on them, how he was loved and how he loved on other people, right? That's what's going to be remembered. And the things he did to help build up society, right? Those are the lasting legacy impact things. And this is how it ties in with our diet. You know, back when Gustav and Margareta came across the prairie and they came across the plain, they ate a very proper human diet. They ate whole foods. They didn't have junk foods. They didn't have things in bags, right? They ate what they could when they had it. They had to preserve their food. They had to can their food. They ate meat when they found it. And if they hunted, they killed it. They processed it right away. They would have smoked it. They would have ate it. Right? They would have grown vegetables out of their garden, and those would have been, we would call them heirloom today, but they would not have had any pesticides or chemicals on them. They would have been the real McCoy. They would have been healthier for them, far healthier than any vegetable grown today. The meat wouldn't have had any preservatives or any chemicals in it, or any vaccines or anything like that, nor hormones added. It would have been that animal, whatever it ate, would have been come right off the prairie and probably a few other grains. Their food supply, while limited comparison to ours today, would have been far healthier than ours today. But they would have ate a whole food diet and they wouldn't have known any better. But you and I, we have a choice on how we can eat. We can eat carnivore, we can eat vegetarian, we can eat a standard American diet, and anything in between. Now, here's how it really starts to impact. Go through Walmart next time you go shopping, or Sam's Club especially, right? Because you're going through with this wagon of a cart and people are throwing so much stuff in that cart. I go to Sam's Club, we're putting mostly water and meat in that cart, and that's about it. And dog treats too. We buy a lot of dog treats. Sometimes paper towels and toilet paper. But mostly it's water and meat. But you know what I see a lot when I go to Sam's Club? I see a lot of potato chips and junk food and bakery products and things like this. Not a lot of healthy stuff. And usually the people that are pushing those carts, they're like twice the size of me. And you can tell that their body aches and it hurts. I don't know anything about any of these people. But the more I see of people that make me look small and their carts are loaded with junk food, I got to wonder, are they happy or are they miserable? What kind of life are they living? The way we eat impacts our psychology. Our physiology impacts our psychology. The way we eat impacts our mood, and it impacts our emotions. and how we're doing. I've noticed that the healthier that I'm becoming on the inside because of the healthier foods that I'm eating, that my sleep is better, my mood is better, my energy levels are up, my emotions are, I guess you could say, slightly elevated and more joyous and joyful. That my thinking is a little bit better and a little bit more right. That I'm all around happier, more loving and more kind. And I've got more energy to do things, so therefore I can make a bigger impact. And the same is true with you, right? The healthier you are, generally, the healthier your psyche can be, and your attitudes and your emotions, and yes, even your soul and your spirit. Now, is that always a one-on-one correlation? No, because I've seen some really healthy people physically who are just a total train wreck up here. But generally speaking, right, people that are healthy in the body are healthy in the soul too, regardless of their faith. And people that are miserable health-wise are more often than not a little bit more miserable emotionally, and maybe even in the soul. Is it always a one-on-one correlation? No, not at all. My father-in-law, y'all, he's a deep man of God. He's a very man of deep religious conviction, very strong Christian. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't be sitting in my chair today. My father-in-law loves the Lord God with all of his heart, soul, mind, body, and strength. He knows his Bible. He studies his Bible all the time. And he talks so much about God and about Jesus and what Jesus has done for him. But when it comes to his health, it's almost a train wreck. And that affects things because he can't get out and do things anymore. He can't drive anymore. He lost all feeling in his feet because of neuropathy, because of diabetes, and because of other things. And so he can't get out. He can't drive. He's stuck in his assisted living facility. He's either dependent on people coming to get him, or he just doesn't leave or go out unless the weather is nice and he can take his scooter and drive it down to the nearby restaurant where he can meet his friends after church. Other than that, he doesn't get out. He doesn't do life anymore unless it's online. That impacts life. It's got to impact the way he feels, the way he thinks. I look at that and I go, I don't want that for me. I don't want that for my kids. It's kind of a wake-up call. And he's actually realized that because of the things that he's eaten, he can't do the things that he wants to do anymore because for the longest time, he wasn't taking care of his body. And now he just can't. Right? But that's not how I'm going to remember him. I'm going to remember him because of his love. I'm going to remember him because of the things that we've done with him and the things that he's done for us. And the life that he built and the life that he built for his family, those are the things that I'm going to remember. But the better we are physically, the better we are soulfully. And the better we are soulfully, the more of an impact that we can make on society. And that's why, my friends, your carnivore diet is important. That's why your ketovore diet is so important. That's why you're eating a standard American diet. It is so important because it can affect your psychology, and it can not your physiology can affect your psychology. Your physiology can affect your emotions, and it can affect your soul. And when your soul is happy, you're more productive and you're better for society and you love on people more. So like a Gustav and Margareta, you can leave a lasting legacy. And that's why your carnivore diet and the way you eat is so important. Again, no one's going to remember you for what you ate. But because of what you eat, perhaps you can be remembered a little bit longer. You know when you were born. Who knows when you pass on? But right now you're living in that dash. And what you eat and how you eat and this time of the dash can make all the difference in the world. That's what I have for you today. My friends, I pray that you're doing well. I pray that you know that God loves you, and I hope that you know that I love you too, and I cherish you, and I thank you for being a part of Holy Carnivore. Believe it or not, you're making a big difference in my life. I hope that I'm making a little bit of a difference in yours too. Until I get to see you again right here next time again at Holy Carnivore, I pray that you're doing well, you're living well, and that you're eating well. I'll see you again, hopefully, next week. Until then, goodbye.